Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel Vedic Living. This is Shri. Today we'll be talking about the predictions for the upcoming month of February. This is going to be a very amazing month, in fact, with all the direct and forward moving of the planets compared to the past few months. So I'm sure you're going to find it a welcome reprieve. Before we go any further into the detailed predictions, let's talk a little bit about my newsletter. I have a free newsletter on my website. If you go to my website, www.vedic-living.com, you can sign up for my free newsletter. And every month I sent out very detailed predictions for the upcoming month with a little bit of detail on what this means for your individual signs. So make sure you sign for it since it goes out every month. Now let's think about the month of February. As you know, the past few months, things have been pretty much in a stagnant state, in your personal lives and around the world. The reason for that is a lot of planets were retrograde throughout the last few months of 2022 and going into January. So when planets are retrograde, what happens is we, from our vantage point, it looks like they're moving backwards. But astrologically, what it does is it really does create a sense of the one step forward, three steps backwards, kind of like a feeling. You feel like nothing's moving forward, nothing's progressing in your lives. And you're constantly battling obstacles. There's a reason for that. When planets are retrograde, they compel us to look at the past and reassess and review and make sure that you're putting the right kind of closure to everything that you've started in the past. That's what retrograde planets do. They make us review and reassess. And that's why, when the planets are retrograde and you try to start a new project, it really doesn't make much, headway because the retrograde planets continuously pull us back saying, wait a minute, this is not the time to start something new because you still haven't closed what you started in the beginning, right? So it's not a bad thing. But if you don't know astrology, and this is why I always tell my clients and my students, the knowledge of astrology helps us live our lives in a more knowing kind of way, for lack of a better word. You're not really just kind of blindly trying to feel your way through all of these things in life, but you kind of know, okay, I know why this is happening. This is a good thing. I know how to get through this, right? So that's what retrograde planets do. But here's the thing. After a long time of planets being retrograde, here we are, starting the month of February, all the planets are direct, including the outer planets. Uranus, Neptune, everything is direct. This is a good thing because finally things will start moving forward in your lives. When planets transit in certain ways, what it really does is it brings opportunities, it brings new beginnings, it helps you move forward with those tasks and those projects that you had started and which were stuck and stagnant the past few months. Here you are able to move forward with those things. So that's a really good thing in the month of February. So let me share my screen and show you a little bit of what I'm talking about and give you some like takeaways as to some important dates in this month. Okay. As you can see, this is the chart, the Prashna chart for the first day of February 2023. And as you can see, I have it set for the United States. So wherever you are in the world, if you have the software, make sure you set it for where you are. And so let's look at this chart a little bit. Like I said, you don't see the retrograde symbol next to any of the planets. All of them are direct, which is great, right? Everything's moving forward right now, which is amazing, because this is the forward-looking, forward-moving kind of thing that we've been looking for and waiting for the past few months. So, finally, those projects that you've put on hold can start off and they'll start picking up steam here in a little bit. So the first thing is, as you can see, 1st of February, here we are with Jupiter at around 11 degrees of Pisces. You have Mars and Taurus. Mars was retrograde for a while there, and retrograde Mars is difficult, because when Mars goes retrograde, it's a planet of action. Whenever the planet of action goes retrograde, it results in misguided action or lethargy, lack of action, so it has been causing problems. But here's the thing, now it's direct, moon is in Gemini on the first day of February, sun is in Capricorn, everything's looking great, everything's direct. Now here's what happens around a week from there. Let's go to right here. You see that Feb 15th. On the 15th of February, you see how Venus has now moved into Pisces to join Jupiter. This is important because Venus is the planet that gets into an exalted status in Pisces, which means it's really strong. Jupiter rules the sign of Pisces. So together, these two planets together, it's amazing in the sign of Pisces. Now, they are not great friends. They are in opposing planetary camps. They are not very friendly with each other, but at the same time, the fact that they are not retrograde and they are both very strong in that sign, this is auspicious. It's very auspicious. 15th of February, and this aspect or this transit of Venus goes on till the 11th of March. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, one date that is really interesting in here is when the moon joins this combination, which is going to be around the 22nd of February. Then on the 22nd of February, you're going to see, I'm going to move this forward a little bit. Right there, the moon joins this combination. This is important too, because now you have the moon hemmed in between the Venus and the Jupiter, and it's in an auspicious position, right? Although it is in the nakshatra Uttarabhadrapada, which is ruled by Saturn, it's not too bad. Saturn is in its own sign of rulership, not too bad. But the fact that it's hemmed in between benefits, this is an auspicious day. So February 26th, 22nd is a good day. But the whole time when Venus is transiting Pisces, what Venus really signifies is love and peace and harmony. And it's really interesting that it went into the sign of Pisces, its sign of exaltation, the day after Valentine's Day. So whenever Venus is in a good position like this is a great time to have conversations about your relationship. If you have something you want to discuss with your spouse or your business partner, these are the kind of talks that you can have at this time, because everybody's in a good mood. It's an amicable time. So remember that when you see this, when you get to this point in February. Now, the other thing that you might have noticed here, when I moved the Venus and the moon here into Pisces around the last week of February, you notice how Sun and Saturn come together. This is important too, because around the, I believe it's the 7th, let's look. Yeah, around the 16th of February, Sun, Saturn come together. This is a day that you should keep in mind because, see, Sun signifies leadership and government. And whenever Sun and Saturn come together, by the way, that's not a rare thing. It happens at least once a year, right? But anytime Sun and Saturn comes together, the weight of Saturn is a lot of the Sun. There's a sense of heaviness. There's a sense of responsibility. It's, what you're doing is not fun anymore. It's, it's responsibility. And another thing is, if you are looking to have discussions with your management or your leadership or your boss, or if you're talking to somebody in the government about something, this is not a great day to do those things, because anytime there's leadership kind of element involved, and that's the Sun, you want to kind of stay away from a day when Sun is with Saturn, right? It's not a great day. But it is a great day to get things done, though, because Saturn is hard work and discipline. And, at the same time, Saturn and Sun are not friends either in Indian mythology. They are the father and the son who never got along with each other. So there is a lot of animosity there. So this is again, not a great day, but just a day that I wanted to keep in mind. Like we talked about the Feb 22nd being a good day. Feb 16th is a day that you don't want to have those conversations with people in power, right? With leaders or leadership people. Now, also, if you notice, this is happening right around the time when this is happening. Yes, a day after this, you will see when I move this to the right there, Feb 19th, Neptune has moved into Pisces. This is also important because whenever the planet of Neptune that rules water and storms moves into Pisces, which is also the deep, dark waters, there could be weather related things around the world, right? There could be storms, there could be floods, there could be issues with that around the world. Neptune will be there in Pisces for a long time. It's a slow moving planet, but it just entered Pisces. So the energy of the planet has changed, going from an Aquarian kind of energy to a Piscean energy, which means that there'll be more of humanitarian causes coming about. Another thing is Neptune rules drugs and medicines, and you may see a lot of inventions and new cures for hard to cure problems, hard to cure diseases. I've still not come to the new moon. I'll come to that, but you'll see there as well that there's going to be some cures that come about, right, in this time frame where diseases will get cured. Neptune rules medicines and drugs. So there will be a lot of hard discussions around opioid addictions and those kind of things. And we've also seen recently a lot of suicidal deaths coming out of drug overdose. So those are going to be discussed, and people are going to take those up as causes that they need to work on and fix for the future generations. And Neptune moving into Pisces, I believe, personally, I believe that this is a very telling sign of the times to come when these difficult discussions are going to happen and people are going to be able to come to a solution as to how do we avoid these kind of addictions and problems with the upcoming generations. Okay, so that is an important transit that's happening this month. Neptune moving into Pisces. It's amazing. Now, a few days after that, on actually the very next day, I was wrong. It's the very next day. We have the new moon, 7 degrees. It's around 7 degrees of Aquarius that the new moon happens this month. It's on the 20th of February. And I've always told you, new moon is a time when you make affirmations, when you start new things. It's an indication of new beginnings. And wherever the new moon is happening is very telling as to what the trend of that month is going to be. So the sun and moon coming together in the nakshatra of Shatabhishak is very important. Remember, in Vedic astrology, we use the nakshatras very heavily, right? It's one of the most powerful tools in Vedic astrology. Shatabhishak nakshatra is the symbology is the 100 healers, and it's the sky watcher. A lot of times, and each nakshatra has its own symbology, it has the meaning behind it, it has a rulership and a mythology story that goes along with it. Because I think the ancient sages, they felt that the best way for us to understand the meaning of these nakshatras is through the story and the symbology behind them. So the Shatabhishak Nakshatra does have a lot to do with hard to cure diseases. So I think this combined with the fact that the previous day Neptune just went into Pisces, and now you have the new moon happening in Shatabhishak. I mean, that is very, very clear. This has to mean that we have some really good innovations and new kind of medications or therapies or healing processes that are going to come about. People are going to talk about new cures to hard to cure diseases like drug addictions or diabetes or cancer, all of those kind of things which are always feared. And we always have this fear that, oh, there's no cure to those diseases. But you will see this month there's a lot of talk about how to cure these diseases because the new moon is happening in Shatabhishak and Neptune moved into Pisces. There are two reasons why this will happen. Now, at the same time, the new moon is conjunct right there. It's not exact to the degree, but it is conjunct Saturn. So there's going to be a lot of hard work involved in whatever solution comes across. It's not going to be an easy fix. Saturn is all about hard work and dedication and diligence. You don't give up with Saturn, right? You have to kind of stick with it to get the result. But here's the thing. Saturn does promise you the reward at the end. So the hard work really does pay off. But at the same time, The new moon with Saturn means that whatever we kind of set our mind on and we say, this is what I want to achieve, we have to work hard to get those results. It's not going to be handed to us. Okay. So that's important. Now, if you have planets in your chart at around 7 degrees of Aquarius, this is even more powerful for you in terms of a new beginning. So make sure you set your intention, light the candle, think about what you want to achieve, and in that time frame take an action towards that thing that you want to do, because this is a very powerful time frame for you. Also, the 7-degree mark right here in Aquarius is also important, because in United States chart, this is where the moon is, right? Now, you would have noticed when I said that Saturn has moved into Aquarius on the 17th of January. So what does that mean for the United States chart, considering that, the moon is here in Aquarius for US? It means that United States is going through what we call in Vedic astrology a Sadi Sati. Whenever Saturn transits over the moon, which is usually a cycle of 7.5 years, but it's most strong when Saturn is in that sign where the moon is. So the 2.5 years, right in the middle of that 7.5 years, is the most strongest period. That has just started for United States. Saraswati, a lot of people fear it, but here's what it really brings. It brings endings to things that are no longer serving a purpose. So, it's like it takes away, it weeds out all the things that are not needed in your life anymore. So that's difficult, right? Nobody likes change. So that it does. But at the end of the Saraswati, it always leaves a reward, because it's almost like, you've gone through this, you've learned these lessons. Here is what I'm giving you for the next 30 years before your next Saraswati happens again. So this is very important. So this is again another indication of a new beginning for United States, because it's going through a Saraswati, and Saturn is in Aquarius right now. And a lot of this, because it's in the third house for United States, will be a change or an upheaval in the media, because third house is to do with the news agencies, with the media, with publication. And it also has to do, because the moon is there, it also has to do with all kinds of medications and opioid addictions and all of that, because, United States moon is also right there at 7 degrees of Aquarius and Shatabhishak Nakshatra. So when the Saraswati happens, it will trigger those changes, right? So again, it's a new beginning that's happening there. So that's another interesting little thing that's happening this month. Another thing, notice the Mars in Taurus. We talked about how Mars has gone direct, which is great. But there is a small issue here. Mars is, if you look at this little chart down here, it is its declination, as we call it, is 25 degrees. What that means is that whenever a planet is greater than 23 degrees and 27 minutes of declination, it means it's out of bounds. The reason for that is because they say that at that point of declination, the planet is beyond the outer bounds of the limits of the sun. We consider the limits of the sun to be the ecliptic, right? And when the planet goes above that certain angle, which is a 23 degrees and 27-minute mark, it's out of bounds. It's outside the plane of the sun. What happens when a planet is out of bounds? Out of bounds planets are a little out of control. They are stretched and they are over the top. So depending on the energy of that planet, those are the qualities that can be stretched and over the top. Mars rules anger. It rules violence. It rules frustration, because the planet Mars, when it's out of bounds, people don't think about their action. Like it's out of control. There's no thinking happening there. It's just act. And in personal lives also, because Mars is out of bounds, one of the things I always advise my clients is to think twice about something that you're about to do. Because sometimes an out of bounds Mars, especially if it is conjunct a personal planet in your chart, it can make you very impulsive, right? Because it's not thinking clearly, it's just acting, because that's what Mars is, it's action. So this is something that we need to remember, but it's not a rare thing. People think it's rare, it's not. The last time Mars was out of bounds was from 12th January of 2022 till 10th of February 2022. So if you think back at that time, February 2022, when Mars was out of bounds, was when Russia invaded Ukraine. Which makes sense, because when Mars is the planet of military and aggression and war, like warlike mentalities, it can, when it's out of bounds, kind of make people leap before they think, so to speak. So that's the kind of thing that Mars does when it's out of bounds. Now, if it's another planet that's out of bounds, it may act in a different way. But with Mars specifically, that's what happens. So because it's out of bounds this month, emotions may be on an edge. Around the world, you're going to see anger and retaliation and frustration and, all kinds of people, getting up in arms about various causes, and which is fine, but there could be some violence involved because of the out of bounds nature. Mars is going to be out of bounds though till the month of May. This is a long period. Usually, when it goes out of bounds, not always, but usually it's around a month or 2 months. But this is a pretty long time that it's orbiting the sun outside that ecliptic path. So it's pretty much out there, So this is tough. So during this time, the reason I'm telling you this is I want you to be thinking twice about action that you're taking. Not in the sense that, if you're doing something positive, and I always tell my clients, this is one way to remember and overcome these problems: positive action, positive thinking. Thinking in terms of how you're helping somebody through your action. That'll always help you overcome the negativity of anything in astrology. Anything in astrology you can overcome by positive mentality. So those are the predictions for the month of February. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you back here in a few days.